Doctor Who on Netflix or HBO Max? Or neither? Let's see, what's going to happen? Let's read this article. But before we hop into that, my name's Sam, and I'm very, very close to 1,000 subscribers, so if you could subscribe, it would mean the absolute world, and leaving a comment would help even more. There's a button near the comments that says hype. If you do that, that pushes my video out to loads more people, and liking the video as well, of course. Everyone always bangs out about those things, so I'm going to cut this there. Let's read this article, shall we? This is from bleedingcool.com. Doctor Who on Netflix, streamer announcements makes things interesting with no punctuation mark. Bleeding cool, get better. Now this is all boring stuff that we've learned before, like, you know, the stuff happening on the unit website right now, and talking about the show. We're all in this together, and Lindsay Salt being like, yeah, we're going to keep making Doctor Who, and blah-de-blah-de-blah-de. Here's what's interesting. There are different ways of setting up a show. We just need to make sure we do it in the right way and make sure we take the right time to do it. Ultimately, it's one of the BBC's most treasured brands, so it's not going anywhere, Salt said. I managed to walk into this job when the co-pro market imploded, and I've learned a lot about the tendency of producers and writers to make things at all budget levels. Things are getting funded in so many different ways now, she added. This is true, and I'm glad that someone official has noticed this. Now, I haven't talked about this on the channel. I did cover when Salt did the interview, but I didn't actually speak about everything she said. With this, it was more in terms of, like she says, things are getting budgeted all the time, and it might get less budget, but she's had experience in things that have lower budgets. She said so herself in that quote. So if Doctor Who does get a 50p budget again, she'll manage to make it work. So I think we are in good hands when it comes to BBC production. Does that mean they're not going to partner with HBO or Netflix? Well, we'll get onto that in a minute. But I think in terms of if it's just BBC ran, they're obviously going to have less money because the BBC has less money than it did all those years ago. But speaking of that, she said even if it does get less money, she's experienced and she knows how to manage it, which is good. I'm glad that that's been brought up, and because a lot of people are thinking about it, and it's something that they could have kept quiet on and been like, well, we're not going to talk about money in the press, but she said it openly, which makes me think it's true. Around the same time, we noticed that BBC Studios and Bad Wolf have made rather flattering comments about working with HBO Max on previous projects such as Industry, blah blah blah. Richard Gadd and Michaela Cole as examples of how the BBC are successfully working with HBO Max, adding, we'll wait to see how we figure out. HBO has been great partners creatively. There's a lot of stuff that is changing out there. That's true. HBO Max is coming to us now. If we want to buy it, I probably won't because I don't really watch stuff on HBO Max. Could that new partner be HBO Max? That's been rumbling rumour over the past few months, with BBC Studios and Bad Wolf having made rather flattering comments about working with her. This is very repetitive, I'm not going to lie. The bleeding cool, come on, get to the point, man. We're chewing loads of fat here. Yeah, so here after their quote about things changing, it's mentioned that HBO Max was actually the home of Doctor Who outside of the UK for the first 13 series, all the way from 2005 up until 2022. All of that was on HBO Max, and I think recently got removed off of there. So yeah, it makes sense for them to go back to that. And even for future series, I don't see why they wouldn't get HBO Max involved. I think it's a reliable, that they've worked together in the past. They know it's a good relationship, and if it can benefit HBO and benefit Doctor Who and BBC, I don't see why they wouldn't do it. But could there be another player in play? Having walked away from its efforts to buy Warner Bros., Discovery Studios and streaming services 2.8 billion richer for it, Netflix co-CEO Greg Peters has shared with The Telegraph that the streaming service is eager to host programming from the broadcasting networks, especially the BBC, noting that Netflix has proven reputation for making sure licensed shows get to as big of an audience as possible, with Suits being one of the best examples. Peters added, our job is to think about this from not only the BBC's perspective, but a lot of broadcasters. How can we help them actually connect with audiences that are not really connecting with? We're eager to do that. Good. Netflix has bought a lot of BBC shows over the years. Like, I'm pretty sure they had Sherlock when Sherlock was originally airing. They've got Dracula, which is from the same creators as Sherlock. They've got Inside Man from Stephen Moffat, and like they say, they've got stuff like Suits. Luther was bought from BBC. I don't know if the actual Luther series is on Netflix, but I know they made films based on the series, so assuming some deal went on there. So Netflix do have deals with that, but I keep hearing people online saying, no, not Netflix, because apparently Netflix, like Disney were, are very known for just cancelling shows. Out of the blue, just being like, no, not doing that anymore. So that's worth thinking about and keeping that in mind, I'd say. Regarding the recently announced BBC YouTube deal to produce original programming for the service, Peter noticed that Netflix can support high-quality television in a way YouTube can't. When you think about what the BBC production for a Netflix production costs, it's really not supported by the YouTube model. I disagree on that. The most important thing about YouTube is that their model does not sustain the type of content I don't agree at all with that. Not to just judge the bloke who's done this comment, but I think a lot of older people, are still in the mindset that YouTube is like Vine, and it's just quick little videos that, look, the duck song, that's funny. But YouTube nowadays is more like TV than TV. Mr. Beast, his whole channel feels like it could be a TV network and gets more views than a TV network. So YouTube can definitely afford it in the same way Netflix can. And because YouTube now favours longer form content, which is why my channel's slowly dying, it favours longer form content. It means that we could put a 45-minute episode of TV on YouTube and it would still perform well. So I don't agree with the fact that Netflix can benefit BBC better than YouTube in that way. There might be other ways that he hasn't said here. But in this specific way, I don't know which one I prefer. I think they're probably about even, YouTube and Netflix. Now, I didn't speak about the YouTube stuff when it came out, but apparently BBC have signed a deal with YouTube to do original content on there. Am I angry at that? No, I think that's a good idea. Do I want Doctor Who to be on there? I don't know, because a lot of people don't like Doctor Who and they make videos about not liking it. So if you can have in the recommendation sidebar of a Doctor Who episode, why this episode sucks, I don't know if that works. But Classic Who, Sarah Jane Torchwood, stick that on YouTube. Who gives a toss, you know what I mean? While HBO Max may have an advantage and its working relationship with the BBC and Bad Wolf, there's no denying Netflix's global streaming reach, even if you make the argument that a finalised merger between Paramount, Skydance and Warner Bros. Discovery would bring a stronger Paramount Plus HBO. This is so badly written. It would be so... They keep, extending the names. I get it. HBO/HBO Max, I don't care. Near the reach that Netflix has, it continues to build upon. Right outside the UK, would definitely be sweet in the deal. Netflix financial interest to continue the series. Right, sound, whatever. That basically added nothing. Basically, as an overall whole, do I think that Netflix, HBO Max and YouTube are the three biggest contenders to take on Doctor Who? Yes, I do. Do I think that Netflix is the best option? No, because from the representation that it gets, or the rep it gets online, that people say it cancels shows, don't want that. YouTube, I think it could work, but it's not been tested yet. I think they should test it with something like Classic Who or Torchwood, or The War Between. Stick that on YouTube. Maybe not War Between, that's with Disney. But put it on YouTube. If it works, we'll go for it. If it doesn't work, don't go for it. HBO, I think, is the safest bet because they worked with Doctor Who for 20 years, just under 20 years, 15 years. So I think HBO's safe. That's a safe option for them to go for if they're unsure about the other ones. So fingers crossed, this all works out and they find a new streaming deal. And if they don't, Lindsay Salt said she knows how to work with a £1 budget. So I think Doctor Who is in safe hands. We just need to figure out who the showrunner is. By the sounds of this, it's going to still be Russell T Davies, which I don't mind. But I can also see him bowing out after this Christmas. So it's just a guessing game at this point. But let me know in the comments, which one do you think is the best fit to be a Doctor Who streaming partner? Or would you rather just stay at BBC? Let me know. I've been Sam. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, subscribe with the notification bell on. Like I say, I post every single day. And leave a comment. Like I say, there's a button near the comments that says hype. If you push that, it means the absolute world. And if you want to help me out in a monetary way, you can become a channel member. You get access to member-only videos, and you get a shout-out at the end of every single video. Or if you just want a one-time shout-out, you can leave a super thanks in the comments for a couple of quid. I'll give you a shout-out at the end of the next video. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Ta-ra!